Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
So today, thank you guys for having me. Just let me say that. Thank you, ladies, for having me. Today, we're going to look over some data and discuss a problem on our campus. So first, we're going to start off with introducing ourselves. Well, before we introduce ourselves, let me go over some meeting norms. So first, let's be on time. Thank you for everybody for being on time. Make sure you tame your technology. Everyone be present and engaged. Make sure you give me whatever you feel, what your thoughts and opinions, and be solution oriented. We're trying to have a solution in mind. And also, let's just respect each other's thoughts. Alrighty, so we're going to introduce ourselves, and I'll go first. My name is Miss Lowe. I am a teacher.
I'm Miss Cooper, speech language pathologist.
Miss Thorne, art facilitator.
Miss Jones, a teacher.
Alrighty. So once again, thank you ladies for meeting with me today. So we're going to discuss the scores on our campus, the reading scores. So I gave everyone a handout of our paper report. So just let's review some data. But first, before I do that, I want to read this introduction. So declining reading scores on the STAR exam, there at our campus, they highlight some type of concern in the effectiveness of our current teaching and the support systems that we have in place. So despite the efforts for reading improvement in education, we are still looking to move our scores up with possible interventions, professional development. We need to make sure that we close the gap or try to close the gap as much as possible. It's crucial to address this issue to ensure that students develop an essential reading skills for the future, academic, and also for their learning, the best possible learning outcomes. All right, let's look at some data. So as I was looking at this data, I wanted to focus primarily on reading because I feel like reading is linked to all the other content areas. So if we can improve their reading skills, then I feel like they will be able to comprehend math, science, and social studies. If you agree, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So let's take a look at our school year. This paper report is from 2022 to 2023. If we just start at the bottom of that box that I highlighted for y'all and work our way up. At master's grade level, we start at, in 2022, they had 20% that mastered. In 2023, it went down 13%. So that's a decline for the third grade who's mastered reading. And then we move up to who meets the grade level or above. We started at 43% in 2022. That also declined to 31% in 2023. And then in 2022, it was 73% that approached grade level, and then also declined at 48%. So it was a steady decline for third grade. And this was in the year 2023, so I thought that this was a good thing to focus on because it's a steady decline. So we can also look at these subgroups to help us understand maybe why. So let's just take a look at across the board. Now we can go across African Americans, Hispanics, whites, all the demographics, even special education to ESL. So I just want to give y'all a minute to think about, maybe you can jot it down, maybe you can talk to your neighbor. Think about what do you think the contributing factors are for declining reading scores in third grade?
I think we can just popcorn out, right?
Okay.
I know for certain that at this campus, we have a lot of uncertified teachers. I feel like if we go into the demographics about different ethnicities, I see that the Asian population, they have pretty high scores that seem a little bit more consistent, and then for African American, Hispanic, they kind of decline. Now I know that culture plays a big part of how important education is to each household, right? So I feel like that is probably a good factor, to
So
consider.
culture.
You know, and then, the minorities, they don't have, access to different resources, outside tutoring, any other
Mhm.
outside sources, besides school.
Okay.
So I think that that's a big, thing to consider. There are just disparities when it comes to, different races and what they have access to.
Okay, so I'm trying to see how should I work this. So basically you're saying ESL minorities, just different subgroups, they might not have those same resources.
Exactly.
So just lack of resources.
Yeah,
Also, like maybe parent involvement.
exactly. Yeah, they have a lot more going on.
Okay. So our lack of, just bring that down, lack of parents.
They're probably working, most of the time they're working multiple jobs. They are not home at night if they have to work, so it's just
Okay.
different home environments.
And that would happen a lot with, minorities and things like that. Always at work.
But it's
Okay.
also like a typical, possibly just what they know in general
Mm-hmm.
and how they can do or their educational background.
Mm-hmm. So lack of knowledge or
Mhm.
background. Okay.
And just piggybacking off of what Ms. Cooper stated about the teachers, we having a high population of uncertified teachers. Also, the turnover rate here is very high, so lack of consistency also contributes to that.
So I like that you said that because you ladies were not able to make the first video, sorry about that. But in the first video, we focused on teacher retention. Although that's not tied to necessarily a subject matter or we can't really measure teacher retention, but it's linked. We know personally since us being educators, but it's not something that we can really measure. So teacher retention can be a factor. So let's put that. And then also, what was the other thing that you said? Oh, uncertified teachers. Okay, so I'm gonna do uncertified teachers. So basically, so even going into being uncertified, it's like lack of training, lack of professional development.
Exactly.
And that was kind of my point over they'll implement certain strategies or we'll come up with a plan for what we're gonna do for the following year, but then when we get to that following year, it's a complete different team of teachers. So,
Okay, and so that ties into teacher retention.
And to piggyback off of Thorn from my, background, being a speech pathologist, we have to use evidence-based practices, for intervention.
Uh-huh.
So maybe there is a lack of, strategies that they're implementing that really aren't evidence-based. Like, do they work or not? Do we have the data for that
Lack of evidence.
intervention? So basically, those strategies have been like trialed, in a research setting,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been deemed to be effective. So
Okay.
yeah,
So we wouldn't know like the data, like are they even being?
does this strategy, has it been proven to even work to increase reading, comprehension?
So we're just doing it just to do it.
Yeah.
Like we need some type of evidence behind it.
Right.
I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that is okay. That is a thing because we would need data to back it up.
Right.
So let's take a look at our African American students. That's the first subgroup right here. They actually went up significantly with the masters. It went from 7% to 24%.
Mm-hmm.
So they significantly went up for the masters area. And then if you take it a step up to the meet above level, it went down from 41% in 2022 to 23%. So we think about like, okay, well, why did that? That was interesting to me. I'm like, okay, it's a lot of people, well, a lot of African American that mastered growth. It showed a lot of growth, but then when you go even to approaches, it declined too. So from 2022, it was 67%, and then that went down to 59%. So that also declined. If we go to our peers, the Hispanics, they mastered at 19% at 2022, and then it went down to 8%. they meet at 93%, and then it went down to 29. What did I just say? They meet at 39%, and it went down to 29%. And then they also approach grade level to 81, and then it went down to 58. So it's going down with the different demographics as well as just all together, the whole subgroup.
Does the constant switch out of kids get affected of it?
I just thought about that, like, are
Constant
these the
switch
same kids, or like, are people withdrawing, and like, you know,
I
different.
mean, I don't know what the turnover rate for the students are. Is it a constant, like, students in the classroom for like a year and then the parents are like moving or something and then they get switched to, you know,
Yes.
a different school and now we got new kids replacing them who may not know as much as, you
Or
know.
who haven't been identified yet to have, you know, maybe being referred for dyslexia or any other, you know.
I do know,
That could be a factor,
our number of dyslexia qualifications increased tremendously last school year.
and that's tied to reason. So like
Yeah.
a lot of increase of dyslexia students.
There's students in general.
Yeah.
Now in general area.
And even if it increased, you know, there's still a shortage, you know, around the whole school district for sped positions, you know, to even help these kids. So,
Mhm.
you know, for me being in speech, a lot of my kids don't get seen because I'm the only speech therapist here.
Mhm.
So a lot of people are they're not being identified, or either they are, but they still can't receive the services because there's no funding.
So that takes me to what I was going to ask about. Like, okay, so I know a lot of teachers may feel like they don't have enough time to do small groups, pull for interventions and things like that. So we could say like not a adequate amount of time in the schedule for therapy, like interventions, things like that. So I want to move it along. Move it along, and then let's go ahead. So it's this thing that we do called control and influence, to where we eliminate the things that we can control. Eliminate the things that we cannot control. And we only focus on the things that we can control. So taking our contributing factors, or what we might think is our contributing factors, what could we control? This is something that we could do, something that we could, what am I trying to say? Something that we could fix, like it's in our power. Influence is maybe something that happened at home, something with parents, something that we really can't put our hands on and do too much with. So lack of resources, where do you think that falls, under control or influence?
I feel like, go ahead.
You can ask for resources or what have you, but there's no telling if we'll actually be able to get them.
Okay, so yeah, because that would depend on the funding and stuff. So you wanna, but let's just try to like put it only in one of the sections. Is that something that we can control if we have lack of resources?
I don't
I
think
would
so.
say influence.
Influence?
Yeah.
Okay, so. Parent involvement.
We cannot control. The only thing I can control is the recommendations of like goals for in the home,
Mm-hmm.
but them actually executing it, we can't control them.
Exactly.
Now, we are doing things to try to influence parent involvement, but like she
Okay.
said, we can't really control whether that they actually.
Because the resources are there, like the family center and stuff like that, but it's not, we can't force anybody to do anything.
Okay, so I'm going to put.
Sorry, I'm just like leave it up there.
Lack of knowledge. Now, this could be from teachers or parents.
We can't really control that.
We can't control that, but again, we are doing things to try to, you know, help our parents understand what it is that our kids need to learn so that they can support them at home as well.
Mm-hmm. Like we do have the parent center.
And we're also, for example, we're sending home books with kids and
Mhm.
with questioning strategies for the parents to use to kind of help them with their reading comprehension when they're reading at home.
Okay, so when I say lack of knowledge, we can put influence, we can put it on the influence side for for parents at home. What about for teachers?
I feel like the district could, if they can find it in the budget or even have somebody who's more knowledgeable, just volunteer to like put together, professional development for, these teachers to get the knowledge that they need to be able to intervene, adequately.
Yes,
So
and they're
we're-
sending all new teachers to the Reading Academy. That's one of the strategies that they're using.
Okay, I like the reading academy. We're gonna touch back on that when we go to strategies. So with the lack of knowledge for teachers, do you think that's something that we could control? Because we can enroll in courses and take it upon ourselves to kind of sharpen our own skills.
Do y'all have to do continuing education? Teachers?
No, we don't, we don't have to. When you say that, it's like we have to do professional development, we have to complete that
Okay,
a certain amount of hours per year.
okay, I think that's the same
Yeah, we'll
thing.
just do that.
Yeah, So
So-
like if they gear that towards, reading and
mhm.
things that they really don't have too much knowledge about, then yeah, I mean, that's totally in their control.
That's what I was thinking too. I was trying to let's do that.
Yeah, like as a professional, it's like our obligation to, seek that knowledge out.
All right, uncertified. So if it's an uncertified teacher, now let's think of this let's put ourselves in the admin shoes.
Right now, it's a teacher shortage, so
It's a
I think they're just trying to.
Yeah.
Get what they can get.
Yeah,
So, would you say that's something that we can control, or that's something that we can't control?
we can't control it. I mean, the school district, if they wanted to do something about it, cool, but I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. It's a shortage, there's no funding, you know what I mean?
So the campus really doesn't have control over it. I mean, if the district were to like increase pay and those kinds of things, then maybe. But as a campus, I think we're kind of just accepting what we can
Yeah.
get at this point.
So what about this? They have associate teachers, right? And that's like that they're not certified. It's like a program that they go through.
So
Yeah,
they
they go
have about, 2 years
To get certified.
But they don't help them with schooling. It's just they have to do that on their own.
As far as like their personal schooling, I don't think the school has anything to do with that, but I know a new teacher gets a mentor teacher their first 2 years. They have to do, as far as our district goes, with ALEAF, they have to do ALEAF-U.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 years, they have to do more PD hours, at least for, no, I think for general
Year
ed.
one.
General ed is the same, right,
Yeah.
after every year. I think it's sped and has to do more hours.
I think,
Well, everybody, like the first year, has to do the 30 hours for the ALFU.
Oh,
So even Jeanette does.
Okay.
So that first year, they have to do those 30 hours, but after that, it goes down to like 14.
I think it's because y'all teachers get observed, right? Quite often, I feel like if they're uncertified, they should have like more observations and more like,
PEs or more
training,
strenuous training.
just to make sure that they are on the right track with,
And they're implementing more stuff like the universal classroom walkthroughs.
And they actually do their planning with the specialists. So, and like go through their lesson plans with the specialists. So I'm,
They have like the PO.
That's the tricky. I'm over here trying to uncertified teachers. That's something.
I feel like, can we not write it like right in the middle? Because I feel like we can't control the district hiring uncertified teachers, but
Right.
we can like,
Put things in place
to help them, yeah.
be successful. Okay, let's put a little asterisk on that.
That's out of control for with the.
I mean, it's- It's,
Yeah,
it's
that's all
hard,
I'm like.
you know?
That's a hard.
Because if we don't have certified teachers applying, we can't hire it.
and as far as us,
Mm.
our roles within the school, we cannot control that. So I think we should put
Influence.
influences.
Okay, like how we kind of leave that out.
Yeah.
Alrighty, teacher retention. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Professional development. Is that something we
definitely
control?
controlled.
Yeah.
We can sign up for that on
Yeah,
our own.
there's free stuff too sometimes.
And there's also paid stuff.
Pay stuff.
The district pays for it.
Oh, okay.
and they pay you, you know, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
Alright, we have teacher retention. So this is dear to me because that was our focus last video, but what do y'all think about teacher retention?
We can't control
Right. Look, I already have the bullet point.
Right.
next to it.
Right. Mark it up. No, we cannot control.
no.
Oh.
Influences.
Oh, because I'm thinking we can't control. Okay, whatever.
I
Let
thought
me
the same.
erase.
Just push the back button. Oh, well,
How
that's
to do it? I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, it's erasing.
Or you can push that erase.
Oh shit, please don't erase everything. Where is it? I thought I was doing. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, erase too.
Don't be sad.
Lack of evidence-based interventions. Is that something that we can control or not?
I feel like, yeah, because even if we go by ourselves to, different PDs, we can, obtain that knowledge and, you know what I mean? And know what's working and what's not. We can even bring it back to our school and, advocate to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain degree, I think retention can be controlled just a little bit because a lot of times when teachers leave, it's because some of these things are lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have some of those things put in place, maybe we can retain more.
Mm-hmm. That's some good stuff. That's what we talked about a lot. So increase of increase of dyslexia students. We can't control that.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. And adequate time, not having enough time in our schedule for small groups, interventions, anything like that. Is that something that we can control or is it an influence?
I think it's an influence because if we have an influx of students, a shortage, right? Lack of resources, all these things that,
Mm-hmm.
we're never gonna really get any time,
Right.
you know?
Not to mention we're working from a strip, like you have to do stuff at a specific
Right.
time
Mhm.
and all of that, so what you trying to squeeze in everything is just.
Right. So adequate time. I also wanted to throw something in. I wish I would have just said it when I was thinking about it. What was I going to say? Lack of certified teachers, teacher retention. Oh, lack of not internalizing the lesson properly, like lack of lesson planning, proper lesson planning.
I think so.
Go ahead.
When I was a teacher, they really drilled into me like, hey, like it'll be on the like a rubric or like our scoring guide, like does it appear that you internalize the lesson? If you don't, internalize it and understand what you're teaching, it's gonna come across. Like you can't really,
Right.
what am I trying to say? Your kids are not gonna absorb the information. You're just
Mhm.
not. You're not prepared.
That was
So.
a big part for me. That's what I was like, I think. So do you think that's something that we can control or not control?
Yeah.
I think we can
Definitely.
control it, cause kind of speaking to what she just said, the lesson planning here is very scripted. There's not very much room for autonomy when you're doing your lesson planning, so everybody is kind of required to do the same thing, and not all the kids are in the same place.
Exactly.
And it's like if I had a professor who was just monotone, right? Like, am I gonna be into it? It's gonna be like another boring lecture. So you just have to give it a little bit of oomph, I guess.
Okay. So adequate time. Adequate time. What else? 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 What else Okay, so with that, lesson plan internalization, do y'all think it's, enough of diversity, that's not the word I'm looking for, do you think it's enough of differentiation in the lesson plans?
Oh,
No.
yeah, if it's just a script, then no.
Exactly, that's what I was getting at.
And
so.
all kids don't learn the same, so you have to differentiate, the lesson. Even when I come in for speech therapy, right? Like, I know certain kids aren't gonna be able to verbalize or, so I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna point today, right? So you have to meet them where they are.
So do you think something we can control or not control?
We can definitely control. We just gonna ignore this.
This is not
It's
right.
crazy, it's not right.
That's not right at all. Okay, no differentiation.
Just put no diff, no. Yeah.
Especially for time purposes because. So then we're gonna go and look at, so we can't do anything about influences.
Right.
So just go ahead and X that out. What can we control? Let's get down to the root problem of what we think why we think our students are declining for third grade reading. Is it the lack of knowledge from teachers, lack of professional development?
All this goes together.
I was literally thinking that as I was reading it, lack of lesson plan or no differentiation.
I do think there's one thing that is very important here from the 22 to the 23 school year. For special education in the 23 school year, almost 40% of the campus was identified. So I think that plays a
Oh,
part
wow.
here.
Wait, so almost 40%, that's some good.
That was in special education, like we had a very high population of SPED.
And
And
it's still
so-
wrong.
Yeah.
That's where the
So almost
differentiation comes in.
40% of, say that one more time, almost 40%.
40% of students were receiving services, were in
The whole
SPED.
population here.
And that's saying something because they're receiving services, but are they
They were
receiving
in special
services
education.
with the lack of time? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, cause I know across the district for speech, there's so many kids that are owed compensatory time. So, they're probably not just getting the services that they need. There's no shortage.
that's a, high percentage. So is that something that we can control or not?
Spend,
Yeah,
no,
we
we
can't
can't
control
control
it.
it.
So we just gonna, we know we can't control it, so let's just fix that out. So, man, okay, so when we know that this is all tied together, and we know that this is linked to our student success, so how could we narrow it down? Like, what is the root cause of why we feel like our students are declining?
And I feel like, to piggyback off that, if 40% of the population here is SPED, but they're being identified late, so they're in general population, right? In general education. The teacher, I feel like it's important for the teachers to not say, oh, let me just push this kid to the side and not really work with him because he's too difficult. I think they need to understand and have more training on how to deal with SPED kids.
That's the part.
Yeah,
That's
because
the
a lot of times I see the SPED kids who are in gen ed that have in-class support, that are autistic, they're just off in a corner doing their own thing, and that's really not ethical to me, right? But at the same time, they should have one-on-ones or something like that, and we don't have the funding or the staffing for it. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's a very valid point.
And what she said kinda just summed up. the
Right, that's why I'm
issue,
looking
yeah.
at this like, well, so for me, it's just like, okay, which one will we choose? No differentiation can go into the lesson plan.
I think it should be a little graph. Like the main issue is probably uncertified teachers. Now let's branch out. What are the issues with that, right? We need more professional development. We need more evidence-based approaches to reading. We need to
They need to know how to internalize the lesson plan and
have more.
give differentiation.
Yeah,
Okay.
And I think all of that kind of goes into professional development.
yeah. Pretty much. So the issue is professional development.
So lack of professional development.
That goes into it.
Yeah, professional
You know.
development, differentiation.
Because
Because that will go into
in PD, you will learn to differentiate.
Okay. So lack of professional development. So with that being said, now that we have our root cause, we are thinking about strategies to help with this problem. The problem is declining reading scores. The solution, based off of what we just did, is professional development. Our teachers need professional development. We need to expose them more to different reading strategies, our best practices. So what do you think we could do to help that? What are some strategies that we could possibly put into place?
I feel like talking to the principal or the reading strategist here, probably, seeing what resources she has, if she could, or take like a survey of teachers, like who thinks that they need more, professional development in this area or something like that. Just bringing attention to it, advocating, and seeing like if we could partner up with some other companies that specialize in reading and things like that. They could come and talk to the teachers and do some training.
I agree with that, because I think a lot of the issue is a lot of teachers don't know how to teach reading, because that's a very difficult thing.
It is.
And I have been to a program when I first started in class support. We were sent to a program called Letters, and that it was almost like a college course. And that is the professional development that taught me how to teach reading.
Yeah.
So I think that giving with like programs that can come out or that teachers can take to help with understanding how to teach reading.
And even for me as a speech therapist, even having to like teach them to make cohesive grammatical, phrases, it's a lot of things that go into morphemes and it's a lot. So it can be overwhelming if you don't have the background in it.
Okay. Okay, so now that we know that we want to focus on more professional development for the teachers, let's just think about what we're focusing on, which is reading, and different things that we can do. So like, what's the curriculum like? Has there been any changes? Do we have any adequate support for our struggling readers? Is there enough time for small group, which we already kind of focused on that, but let's just think about those things.
One of the things that has changed with the curriculum, in the past we've used iStation as a supplemental support, and now we're using iReady for reading support.
Okay.
And then another thing, because the fourth graders have to do accelerated instruction. So what we've started to do last school year was implement cardinal flying high time. So it's basically accelerated instruction for the third graders. Even though they haven't taken the state assessment yet, it's kind of like a tutorial to get them prepared and caught up so that they'll do well on their assessment this school year.
Okay. So that's something good for the students that we put in place, because we need professional development for teachers, but then we also need to know how to transfer that knowledge to students. So you said that they had a reading program.
Yeah, but it don't apply to professional.
I know, that's why I put it to the side right here. Cause that's like, we can do like how that would transfer over to students. So that's kind of like my little student thing right here, so. But yeah, it doesn't apply, I mean, if we're learning whatever they're doing in professional development and transferring it over, it could be.
My issue when I was a teacher, or in general, like just working in a school district, I've always felt like the professional development that they made us go to it's not important. Like what is the issue that you're having in the school? If you have a school that has a low rating, why are we talking about, I don't know, just something that's not salient to what's going on and what's going to increase the scores? So I feel like they need to focus on having, pertinent professional development to help the staff and the students.
So let's make it relevant.
Yeah, just make it relevant.
Relevant. Okay, well now actually let me go, but take it back. We don't wanna focus on what the problem is anymore. We wanna come up with some solutions.
So I would say advocating to the principal, that we
Okay.
probably need, you know, more professional development, more training and reading,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Involving, you know, collaborating, you know, it's important for us to have interprofessional development, so seek out the reading, interventionist at the school, cause she would be the most knowledgeable
Mm-hmm.
if they need help. So I guess collaboration, advocating,
Collab. Sorry, guys. Because we collaborate with PLCs.
collaborating, yeah, advocating,
Alrighty, so,
advocating for new programs or new, I don't know,
New programs.
yeah, new programs.
okay, so then also think about with our students, what could we do? So we know we could do more professional development, but then also for the students, what could we put in place? Like reading interventions.
I think that the teachers need the training first,
Mm-hmm.
and then we could put something in place, you know what I mean? Cause if they don't know what to put in place, then,
So that's why we say that's the root cause of it.
yeah,
One thing that we've recently put in place is the, independent reading is gonna happen during PLC. So normally when teachers go to PLC, the kids go to an extra specials. But now, kids are gonna still go to their specials, but instead of doing art or PE, it's gonna be an independent reading thing. So
Okay.
that's something that we are currently implementing.
Okay, I like how you said that because one of the things that I'm trying to figure out how to put that. Okay, let me just. One of the things that I was going to ask is, do you think that teachers are giving students enough of independent reading time or small group interventions?
but even if it's independent reading, what they over there doing?
What they do.
Exactly.
You know, so,
They have to be taught how to do that. And it's
Right.
like, exactly.
right.
And then it also needs to be like monitored correctly.
Like maybe give them an exit ticket or something like that, you know, that goes with the book to like, kind of measure their comprehension or like what they're, you know.
Yes.
Give them some kind of interest.
Some type of exit ticket or so that they can check for understanding or something like that. What about curriculum? Do you think there's been any curriculum adjustment? Okay, well you said that instead of iReady, we have instead of iStation, we have iReady.
But also, we're also working to integrate reading across the curriculum. So like they're trying to make sure that the kids are reading and writing more in all subject areas.
Okay. So what can we do to help the students? So more interventions, more professional development for teachers.
I feel like the students overall just need more, competent teachers all around, like that's gonna help them in general.
Okay.
You know, if the teachers are intrinsically motivated to go seek out, PD for reading, if we put these things in place to like, cause you know, everybody's not gonna wanna just volunteer and go to some professional development, we've been at work all day. So I think we need to have those meetings be, yeah.
Put in place. I agree. Okay, so the goal is to come up with one or two possible strategies to use throughout this 6-week process that we're doing.
That's good.
No problem. Okay.
So 2 strategies, you said?
1 or 2 strategies that we can implement throughout the 6 weeks that we'll be using in the classrooms, you'll be using when you do your interventions, I'll be doing in my small groups. What's some?
So for me, I have kids that do have reading comprehension goals. So if I see that they are still just like struggling with that, I can identify those kids and, you know, send them over, you know, to just have a list of kids who need more,
Mm-hmm.
reading, what am I trying to say?
Reading
Just-
intervention.
Yeah,
is
reading
a-
intervention, yeah.
So, like, for example, you would probably group them based off of their abilities or something like that?
Well,
and
I'm
then-
saying, like, if I have kids that come in with reading comprehension goals,
Mhm.
and they only see me, ideally, they'll see me, once a week, right? Maybe 5 times per 9 weeks, that's not enough.
Yeah,
So it'll be the teachers to say, you know, to put, give them a little bit more TLC with the reading, you know,
Mhm.
if they're not, you know, doing so well with me. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
okay, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so that goes back to the teacher, and
So I can help with identification.
so like you would be good for a one-on-one tutoring. That's like your thing, you
I'm-
pull out.
I'm just saying, no, because I do group. I'm saying that I can identify the kids who are still needing some more, spot the problem,
And related to the teacher.
related
so
to the teacher.
They can.
So nobody's falling
Okay.
in between the
Understand,
cracks.
yeah.
Hey, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how to say that. That's a good thing
I
to
would
do.
just say-
Because a lot of teachers, back to the whole being uncertified and lack of knowledge, they don't even know how to pinpoint if a student has dyslexia or something like that.
Right, so I would just, SLP can be, a part of identifying. You know,
Okay.
I'll be the flagger. And also recommending, I guess, you know, accommodations that they may need, that may help them, like that I'm using in speech therapy. So maybe they need visuals or something like that. I kinda like the stories for unique learning, when it has the pictures, you know, it's alright.
You guys don't use teaching.
Alright, so, for me, I would say, the students we need to make sure that we are making time, even though that's kinda hard, making time for like pulling interventions, because I think that would be a big piece of it. That's why I was like really trying to probe Ms. Cooper for like what she would do if she was to pull during like speech, time and things like that, because I think that's like one of the big pieces to it.
I would just be using, like, my strategies, I use, just like a lot of accommodations, like I'm seeing like what's working, what's not working, what they need, so it just depends on the kid, honestly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so reading recovery, small group instruction, curriculum adjustment, we know that that's happened, and in professional development, I just kinda jotted some stuff down.
So if the root issue is professional development, and we're gonna take 6 weeks to get there, I think it should just be us advocating, looking for other resources, collaborating with the principal and the reading strategist maybe.
Mm-hmm. So I wanna take this half of the bottom screen. Okay, well, we know that's
Yeah.
accommodations or something. I wanna take this half of the bottom screen and make a timeline, because, at this point, I think it's clear that we need to basically pull students, make sure that we're pulling students for the interventions. And that's gonna be one strategy that we put in place, small group interventions. And the other thing that we're gonna put in place is professional development. They would tie together. What do y'all think?
I feel like for the 6-week timeline, I feel like it should just be like a bunch of things happening at one time, not specifically breaking it down into like 1 week because nobody really has time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we should reconvene in 6 weeks and say like, okay, do we have a list of like extra kids that have been identified? Have we talked to the principal to, advocate for more resources?
Mm-hmm.
Have we taken a survey of teachers who feel like they don't feel confident in reading and like why we should?
love that.
Yeah, so I feel like there should be like a lot of wheels turning within the 6 weeks and we just reconvene with like what we have.
Okay, well, I'm gonna delegate some tasks to
Okay.
you ladies. And so, I like Ms. Cooper, since you are the speech pathologist, that you, will be over, like, helping with identification when you go to those, classrooms to do your interventions, helping with the identifications and making sure that we don't have, we'll try to minimize students falling through the gaps.
Right.
Okay, so. So help with identifying. Okay, so you're gonna help with identifying. Oh my goodness, this is. Ms. Thorne, you as the art facilitator, you also have a SPED background. You know how to identify those. I feel like you would be a good, Ms. Jones, okay, I'm gonna do Ms. Jones. I feel like you would be a good person to help with identification as well. But then also, I would need help implementing, like actually like putting the strategy into place once we get the identification from Ms. Cooper. So, you can help with identifying with Ms. Cooper, but then I will also need your help with the implementation of the small group independent reading time, like when we do our PLCs and collaborating, making sure that the students are like taking the time out to like really do what they're supposed to do. So Ms. Thorne, identify, help, as well as implementation help. I would say this is gonna be intense because just so that we can see the turnaround, I would say, and you said it's gonna be a lot of things happening at once. So maybe like 2 weeks for identifying the students. And then from there, we'll spend the rest of this time doing the implementations. I wanna say 1 week, but I think 1 week is probably not enough. 2 weeks is probably not enough either to be.
We can just have like a tentative.
But we're gonna do a small subgroup. So I know you have a large caseload. Maybe you can work on teacher A and teacher B.
Okay.
So we're only focusing on 2 classrooms
Okay, that's, I
for
like that.
for this.
I like that.
'Cause it's not even feasible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we have Ms. Jones who stepped away. She's also going to be helping with the implementation.
She can give her expertise on accommodations possibly.
With the SPED background. And then we all together are advocating, because we know that we all need not special, what am I trying to say? Professional development.
Yes.
So. So me, I'm helping with, well, I'm of course housing this whole thing, but I'm going to be implementing. Advocating. Oh my goodness, I love this one. I failed. Advocating and implementing, advocating, and also and I'm me being a teacher helping with the identification as well. I'm literally doing everything. Okay. So, this is the plan, and so throughout these weeks, we're gonna come back together and talk about how do we think this plan is working when the students are when the teachers are in PLC and the students are doing their independent reading time, what's going on, what maybe we can do a little bit more, what strategies can we put in place if that's not working. Ms. Cooper is going to help with the identification, and me together, I'll be housing the whole thing I'll be housing the whole thing with implementation, advocating, as well as identifying with Ms. Cooper.
Okay.
All right, so when we come back together, we'll see, and hopefully the data increases, but of course, this is only a small timeline, so we will really probably have to be doing more work, but that's good for now.
Okay.
The good thing is that we just took a, interim assessment, which is like a practice start assessment.
Yes,
So we can kind of see like. what
that
the
is true.
Connection to this.
So using,
That's part
so
of
we can use that data.
education. Yeah.
And literally it's happening, so we can use that star, the interim, I hate saying that word,
Yeah.
interim, star, to track that progress. That's actually a good idea.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ms. Thorne. So we will be tracking progress. Gonna track progress with
Trial state assessments. Is that considered trial?
Oh, is that,
Is it-
that's considered a child, well,
Or no?
Or,
Is it like, you said it's like a mock?
it's like a mock start.
Yeah, it's like a trial.
I could just put mock assessment, it's the mock star. I'm just messing up the words.
This is what my minutes look like after the.
Oh.
Fix it.
Okay, so we track progress with the, interim state assessment, which is the mock star.
Mhm.
And we'll come back together and see how our work is doing. Thank you ladies so much for having me.
Of course.
And I can't wait to see y'all, and honestly, we're probably gonna have to come back before 6 weeks.
Looking forward to it.
Alright.